Hello and welcome to another Outside the Box review. Today we're looking at the Blackest Night Series 7 Sinestro Corps member Arkillo from DC Direct. This is kind of an interesting figure right now because as I speak there are two ways you can get this guy in approximately a 6-inch scale. This one from DC Direct is probably the smaller of the two. It's probably about, I'd say about 8 inches tall. That's my guess on it. And there's also the Collect and Connect Arkillo from the Green Lantern's Classic Wave 1, which is probably about maybe an inch, maybe half an inch taller than this guy. Not a huge difference, but a difference nonetheless, and very strange that two companies are putting out this guy at the same time. Especially seeing that the Blackest Night has been over for quite a while now. But products from it are still coming out more and more, honestly. This guy I picked up today. They just hit stores. There's evidently some issues with shipping with comic stores and stuff over the last day or two. I guess the snow kept the trucks from coming, so pretty early on in this guy's store life. He comes, like all the DC Direct Sinestro Corps members, he has the Sinestro Corps logo stand, the one little peg. He definitely doesn't need this to stand on, but I like the consistency that they all come with these stands. And that they're clear plastic, I kind of like the effect you get with it. Put that aside. This guy is jam-packed with awesome detail. You can see that head sculpt is absolutely vicious looking. Really large fangs. You can see the extra like gum material. It appears that they sculpted an inner jaw set and then sculpted the rest of the head around it, which gives a really nice effect to it. Really good weathering over the whole head. And he's missing his tongue in there. It's around his neck, like in the comic books when Mongol took it and ripped it out of his head. His uniform is fairly standard, what you'd expect from Sinestro Corps. There's a little chip in the paint right here on his belt. You could see that. I've actually seen a couple other people do a review on this, and it looks like that's actually a common defect, so I really don't know if that's just botched paint apps from the factory or what, but that it seems like not an uncommon problem. Comes with his very large yellow lantern. This is probably the nicest DC Direct lantern we've gotten. It's a nice metallic yellow. There's the clear plastic on the two ends here, so you can get some nice lighting effects through it, kind of like light piping or whatever. And the handle on it is very stiff. If you ever had one of these DC Direct lanterns, you'll know that this part's normally really loose and it falls out every 5 seconds. But this one seems nice and tight. I don't know if it will get a lot looser if I mess with it, so I'm just going to leave it alone, because I definitely don't want it getting all floppy like that. I mean, you can tell how enormous this thing is. Here is a Mattel standard lantern. I mean, it is whoppingly huge. The tongue around his neck is removable, so let's get that out of the way to finish the review. I do wish the string on it might have been a little nicer. They could have weathered it up a little bit, but you can't really ask for too much on that. The tongue is very nice. Now, my main gripe with this figure, and it's a minor one because I really do enjoy this guy, is that this is the same body that DC Direct already gave us with their Kilowog figure back in the Green Lantern line. While I don't have that figure, I was taking a look at this guy and I realized a couple important details. Things like his gauntlets here and his belt, where Mattel actually has them sculpted onto their figures, these are just painted on. And the Sinestro Corps logos are stickers. And then I was looking around his neckline. I don't know how well you could see this, but you could see there's like a seam here, and then some added texture in there. Now, by comparison, I could bring in the torso that I have for the Mattel version, and you can see that on this version, well, you can see the muscles under it. It's still part of the continuous uniform. There's no seam there. And what I realized that it is the neckline of Kilowog, because he has very broad shoulders under his uniform. So instead of resculpting the body at all, they simply painted over the texture. It's not something you're going to see in a normal situation, but it is kind of annoying that they didn't bother just sticking a little clay in there or something, retooling the mold. The hands are completely different. The hands and the head are completely different from the Kilowog. Some nice gnarly fingernails there. The simplified version of the Sinestro Corps ring. I know Arkillo, I think, was one of the first Sinestro Corps members, so it may work that he has this ring, but I would have liked to see the one with the symbol on it on his finger. His other hand is a simple fist. For articulation, he has somewhat of a ball-jointed head. You can get side to side just fine, but up and down is really limited. The shoulders are ball-jointed. Will spin 360. He has hinged elbows, which are quite nice. You can spin at the wrist. Nothing through the body until you get to the legs. They go forward and back. The knees bend. And in something of a rarity for DC Direct, the feet actually have some articulation, which impressed me quite a bit. The paint job's really nice on it, a nice metallic gold. It looks good, especially against the flat black on here. Gives a nice contrast, and I like it when the bright colors on them kind of are metallic, because it gives the look of like a glowing construct of a uniform or something. Now, I already showed you somewhat of a size comparison with the Mattel piece, but I'll bring that back in just to give you an idea. The Mattel piece is definitely a good size bigger than it. You could bring in the leg as well, and you can see that the leg comes up pretty high on him. And then in comparison to Mattel's Kilowog, which is the same body also for the Collect and Connect Arkillo that they have, you can see the height difference is fairly significant. So depending on which height you want with these figures, you can kind of gauge for yourself which size you want. Now, the interesting thing of the release of this figure is that DC Direct has released this guy at this size, and they also recently released a gigantic Mongol. I believe he's actually taller than the Kilowog is, though I haven't actually picked him up. At the same time, Mattel released the Kilowog size Collect and Connect Arkillo, along with a slightly larger than your average DC Universe figure Mongol. I believe that would put the Mongol and this Arkillo at about the same height, and the Collect and Connect Arkillo and the DC Direct Mongol at about the same height. So to have a set that would be about accurate height comparison, you have to kind of mix and match two different lines, which seems to me to be a bit of a weird choice, but I know Mattel isn't always all that concerned with scale with their Collect and Connect pieces. Another nice thing, if you want a simple customization, is it shouldn't be any problem at all to stick this tongue on the Collect and Connect Arkillo if you wanted to give him that feature. I think with the head on, you'd still be able to maneuver it on there. So you could still have that feature, which is the biggest difference between these two guys outside of the scale. Overall, this is a really, really cool figure. I'm definitely happy I picked it up. Like I said, they're hitting in comic stores pretty much right now, so you should have plenty of opportunity to go and pick this guy up for, you know, MSRP as opposed to hitting the scalpers on eBay or any of that crap. And especially if you're collecting the Green Lantern Classics wave and you want a correct scale Arkillo to go with your Mongol, this is definitely a nice figure to pick up. And honestly, just in general, a nice figure to pick up. Plus, it'll save you the money of going and buying every Green Lantern Classic figure to get an Arkillo. I mean, this guy runs about 16 bucks, I think I paid for him, as opposed to having to buy six $16 figures to make up the Collect and Connect Arkillo. So it's definitely the more economical route to go. That is it for Arkillo. Stay tuned for more outside the box reviews coming soon.